The Pomonal Recovery Podcast acknowledges the traditional owners of the land on which the people of Pomonal live and work, the Jabberong and Eastern Maar peoples, and recognise their connection to the land and the waterways. We pay our respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. Welcome to the Pomonal Recovery Podcast, where our mission is to provide an ongoing platform to continue the work of telling our stories. The stories that we need to hear. The stories about our courage. The stories about our hopes. And the stories about our fears too. In short, this podcast aims to tell the stories that will help the people in this already remarkable town to get even closer to each other. It's a podcast where we can both celebrate our achievements and grieve about our losses. The podcast will hopefully become a forum full of helpful information and a tool for breaking down the barriers that sometimes divide us. I'm James Laidler, your host. On behalf of the Pomonal Community Resilience Group, I give you episode 5, a conversation with Colin and Susie Macaffer. So welcome Susie and Colin to the podcast. Really good to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been pretty hard to actually nail you down because you're such busy people. But finally, after a bit of toing and froing, you're here, which is great. And about to go on holidays, I think.
We hope so. Yeah, it's all leading to a week or two off, which we're looking forward to.
Yeah, excellent.
Week or two of nothing, hopefully.
Yep. And just coming off the Bogan Bash, which was down at Barney's on the weekend.
Barney's Big Bogan Ball, we called it. Yeah, so we had a great time. We had a big day that day and gave locals and anyone around a rat stall and tourists an opportunity to come and have a good time. And it was about dressing down for some of us. For myself, I was just dressed as normal. And Susie certainly had a bit of an outfit I laughed at. It was an opportunity just for everyone to have a good time, I think, and
yeah,
it was supported by the locals, which we thanked them for, and also surrounding community, which was just really heartening to find that, you know, we took a gamble to have the night and it paid off and it was lovely.
Yeah, it was great.
Just really nice.
And we laughed and we laughed. It was hilarious, actually.
Yeah. Excellent. My wife and I were there and there was some pretty good dancing going on. Yeah. Colin, you were sort of moving your groove on the dance floor there.
Yeah, I paid for that for 3 or 4 days. In fact, I'm still a bit sore. But, look, we saw our chefs come out too from behind the hard-working kitchen, and they did a fantastic job, as did our front of house, and we insisted that they come down and get on the dance floor. One of them I regretted asking because he just took over. The old Gary, he loved it, didn't he?
He did.
Mm. And you even had a whistling competition with saladas or something like that.
Yeah, look, that was something that I thought, rather than just have the night flow, we'll have a couple of little events, and Susie encouraged me to do it. We had a couple of little practice advertising skits that we put on Facebook, and I believe it went over 12,000 plays, so I know Susie was watching it for 11,000 of those, and because she loves me so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, we chewed a salada. First one to whistle goes through in the heats, and then we have a final, and it worked well. There was a few laughs, so wonderful.
No, it's great. It's bringing a great spirit to the town. Everyone out there would be aware of Barney's, and we kind of know we've got the shop and we've got the hall, and we've got Barney's as probably 3 of the major sort of institutions in town.
And Wild Misty Mountain.
And Wild Misty Mountain,
awesome.
which is about to start up again, I think. Excellent. I've heard, maybe don't quote me on that, but I was talking to someone that night, and they're prepping for something which is very exciting for them. It would be great to talk to Gemma at some point too in the future. So let's give a bit of context though, because there would be people perhaps in the town that haven't spent a whole lot of time at Barney's or don't know Susie, you or Colin very well. And maybe you could just fill them in on, how you got here to Pomonal. What was your journey getting here, and why Pomonal, and what do you like about the town?
We met in San Remo, Phillip Island. That's where I was from, and Colin was living at the time too. And then from there, Colin made the next move. He sort of encouraged us to move out to Conniva.
Yeah, so if you don't know, I used to be a police officer, so I've been retired after 37 years, but before we moved here to Pomonal, My last posting, I guess, was in Caniva, which is a small town just before South Australia on the Western Highway. And Susie and I we both moved down there together, and Susie was a teacher there, and me, the local officer in charge. So as the journey went on, we drove past the Grampians continuously, going back to where we had relatives, mums and dads. And as we're going to Melbourne, on the right-hand side, there was the Grampians, and I'd say, gee, that looks really nice. And then on the way back on the left-hand side, I'd say, gee, that really looks nice. And then Susie, who was an outdoor ed teacher as well as teaching more academic subjects, said, well, I'll take you there. So try and cut a long story short, we went camping. We had the computer with us and said, oh, wouldn't mind buying a holiday house here. This is great. We ended up buying a business, which was what we called the Gang Villas. So we had 4 units there, lived in one of them, and retired basically from the police force and rented out 3 of them. As it turned out, we loved Halls Gap, but we found a place called Pomonal. I guess our first time we stopped there was at Marty's shop and had a coffee. I recall. And anyway, we found a house there that was for sale, and we bought it and moved out of the unit from Halls Gap and became a community member. And we both talk about this often. The first thing we noticed was within a week we felt like a local. And in my police career, I've moved around a little bit, and Susie has too. We just felt so welcomed, and that was just so special.
This area draws you in. I don't know whether it's the land or the people or both, but we were just drawn into it. Just had this incredible sense of place when we arrived, but also when we weren't here, we just needed to be here. So we came up every weekend we could, as often
like
as we could. It was like a magnet.
It still is.
And that's largely off the back of the people, do you think?
Yeah.
Absolutely, the people.
Yeah.
But I also think I feel the environment brings me in as well.
Yeah, so it's got all the good things about Halls Gap in terms of natural beauty and everything, but it's got probably a more stable or bigger community in some ways that's not so itinerant, moving in and out perhaps, or spread around. Like,
yes, we do have the tourists, but we have a really strong base of people that live here, and as you say, it's close. We are connected, which is wonderful.
Yeah. I guess too, if there's a difference between some places, Halls Gap's a lovely place. Don't get me wrong, but whilst we were there for 3 or 4 years, the permanent homes turned into Airbnbs.
Yeah.
So the permanency, although there's still a stable community there, a lot of that was tourists.
Yep.
Where in Pomonal we still have a little bit of tourism, but the residents are permanent.
Yeah.
And the relationships are permanent.
Yeah.
And the community is solid.
Yeah.
Without any disrespect to any of the other places. That's what we found. And we still have connections in Halls Gap. There's lovely people there too.
Yeah. And I imagine there would have been people at the ball the other night that were from Halls Gap.
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think that came through, like being at the ball. So you've been here for how many years now?
8 in October.
8. Yeah. Wow. So that's at the ball. There felt like a lot of familiar relationships there, and a good vibe. And so those walls, the evidence would tell me that they're broken down pretty well between people.
Well, look, one of the things, like, we're first of all members of the community. Yes, we own a business, Barney's Bar and Bistro, but our friends and our community are people who have businesses as well. So, you without naming them all, the people who some people would see opposition to our business, which they aren't. It's, they were there supporting us. We support them. It just goes on and on and on.
Yeah.
There's no aggressive rivalry. It's aggressive help to help each other stand on our feet. Whether you've been affected or you haven't been affected by the past fires, that just enhanced what I believed.
Well, I know, like I've seen you, Susie, talk about Wild Misty Mountain before and talk about it glowingly and really positively. So that sort of connects with what you're saying, Colin. Yeah, really affirming what's going on in the town.
They do live music so well.
They do, yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. And it's so quirky down there. It's just a different world. So, what about Barney's? Like, so you've been here in Pomonal for 8 years, is it?
Yeah.
So how did that happen? Like, was that?
I think it was a mistake. No, it wasn't. It was accidental for sure, but
It wasn't a mistake. You mean it was? Yeah.
No,
we had no intention of
wonderful.
doing that, but yeah. Look, the business was there. It was going fine. I got asked to work there. It wasn't for the money. I was supposed to be retiring. But the situation came about that the family that owned Barney's Bar and Bistro were ready to sell, and they asked us if we would. And without going into any further detail, we purchased it.
Yeah, but I said no at first.
Yeah.
Cole said, they'd like us to buy Barney's, and I just said, no, you're retired. What are we doing? But then, I don't know, one day it just sort of struck me that it was a great idea. So I actually came home from work after talking to Jordan and said to Cole, let's buy Barney's.
Well, it feels like more than a business. You know, there's been community events there that I've been to, post-fire and stuff like that. Is it the ball, for instance? So is there a philosophy with it that's way beyond just a money-making venture here? Like, is that what allowed you to buy it? Cause it was...
look, yeah, at the end of the day, I think it was January of the COVID year where we didn't know about COVID. So we were organising settlement, and then COVID hit us, and with all admiration to Jordan, who was running the sale of Barney's, he basically said, I haven't sold you a takeaway food store, so we'll mark time, which we were really appreciative of. And then I think it was June of that year where the first wave had actually completed and it was all open. So we started to go through with settlement again. And then the second wave hit, and he was a bit disillusioned and upset that he couldn't sell us the business that we intended on buying.
Yep.
So when it came to it, we just said, look, let's go ahead with it. We'll take it. I know you want to buy a business, which was Ambush Bus Lines in Allscap, and Susie and I agreed to just go ahead with the sale. By the time it happened, he was happy, we were happy, but at the time we could only have takeaway food to start with, and and we missed out on JobKeeper for Barney's, which is fine. We were 2 weeks after for the settlement, and then we go, oh goodness, what are we going to do? And all of a sudden the takeaway food scene came on. Anyone who had COVID, we were trying to supply meals with. Yep. But then in return, people were buying takeaway from us 3 days a week when we knew they didn't want 3 days a week takeaway food. It was to keep us alive. Yeah,
so before the fires, can't forget the COVID experience, and you had a business. Yeah, so that's telling you about experiencing the community spirit in this place as well.
Actually, the takeaway food time was a time to actually connect when people came in. Because we all had a common ground, which was COVID.
Yeah.
And people, I think they came in for the chat.
Yeah.
Because it was a legal chat as you're handing over food. And that's when, for me, a lot of my connections with the community started, my deeper connections with the people that were coming in regularly.
Isn't it strange how it's often in crisis that people draw close? It's a very odd thing.
And we learnt a lot because then it was opened up, and I think we were allowed to have 10 people inside and 20 outside. And we licensed for inside 497 people. So that was rather complicated and difficult for us to accept because we're a large establishment with a lot of open space. But when it was freezing cold and the winds were coming in and there were 20 people outside, Danny Fraser came along and gave us a lovely tarp to put up to keep the people shielded from the big winds. We had a few gas heaters donated by the Shire, which was wonderful. And then we got the COVID police and they came along and said, no, you've enclosed that area, you'll be fined. So, which was ridiculous because it was still open, and it's no offence to the, the laws and the way they were policing it.
Those 20 people could have been inside in different rooms, very safe. You could put 5 in each other room, other space.
Yeah, so look, those things taught us how to deal with those difficult situations.
Yeah.
And we did.
Yeah.
And eventually because I think there was 25 allowed in a bakery before the rule applied during that time, and we weren't a bakery, so it makes sense to us. But slowly but surely it was 4 square metres, which was the right thing to do, I think. And we're able to run Barney's with 60 to 80 people in there comfortably. And then eventually COVID left us, which was great.
And so things have picked up since then.
Well, that gave us an opportunity to actually discover how to run Barney's.
Yeah, of course.
Too, so that was a benefit.
Because we really did not know what we were doing right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Colin had some experience at the front of the house there, and I worked in McDonald's when I was a kid. Not McDonald's, sorry, Hungry Jack's when I was a kid, and the dairy centre. But we did not know what we were doing. We did have a mini business in Halls Gap, nothing compared to Barney's, and the good part is it's turned out to be just wonderful.
Yeah. Who does all the paperwork?
I do all the admin and the finances and the accounting.
Is that a bit of a nightmare?
I really enjoy it, but
good.
finding that time to sit down with a clear head, that's the difficult part.
Yeah, what's the unseen work that people don't see in a small business, and it's quite considerable.
Yes.
Yeah, so hats off to you.
I also had the benefit of working at Pomonal Estate there prior to the purchase of Barney, so I learnt a little bit about the right techniques there, which was good, and they were a resource to us as we were running our business. Adam and Pep and Amber.
They're really, really helpful, and even things like using Facebook for different ways have been helpful in teaching us some things.
And another example of the goodwill that exists between the establishments there. Yeah. So it's sort of just...
And that's key. I don't understand rivalry where you try to put each other down at all. It just makes sense to bring each other up and the whole town up, and that improves your tourism.
That's right. And like say, the experience of Barney's might be a little bit different from a Pomonal estate, but there's a time for each, to go depending on what you're after.
That's right.
And we're not perfect. We first one to put our hands up. We're not perfect, but we do try our best.
We make our mistakes along the way. That's part of
learning.
Being human, and we want to be human in our business. It's really important just to be down to earth and make people feel welcome. That's number one.
Yep.
I guess the hardest part for us is when there's other hospitality places having some great nights and we're still open and we've got to be at our place and we want to be there.
Yeah, that's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
We've managed to do that on occasions when we've had some lovely staff that have been able to run the place for us, but sometimes forgive us guys out there, we might finish early on one night or close one night just so we can go to things like the Grape Escape or something similar.
Well, you've got to have... In fact, I reckon I saw you dancing away there.
No, it wasn't me.
Yeah, there's definitely someone else at the Grape Escape.
Some other boat.
There you go. So you're talking before that, so you got policed during COVID, and I suppose raises the question for me. So you both sort of stepped up to the plate after the fires in terms of leadership in town and trying to roll up your sleeves and get stuck into things. So you've had that experience of authorities. Like has that influenced or had a bearing on how you've conducted yourself or in your roles?
Just on the day of the fires, for me it was our neighbour thought our house had gone just by their security cameras, and we'd been told Barney's had gone, and that sort of moment, it's an interesting moment in my mind. It was sort of gave me clarity. It's like, I've lost my stuff. What's my purpose? I can help others. And that's the mode I went into. It was just great concern for anyone that was going to be hurting at that point. So the helping others Barney's wasn't on my mind. Yep, we've lost Barney's, so they said. But for me, it was, right, now I've got a role. I can jump into my community and I can help out then, and I'm going to have time to do that.
Yeah. So you felt that as a specific moment, and it just...
Absolutely. Standing in the recovery centre or the evacuation centre in the stall, I just thought, okay, well, I'm meant to help others because I'll have lots of time.
And is that the feeling that you've carried with you?
I have, even though Barney's turned out it was someone's house they put on Facebook. And our home was okay, besides the yard, but it was pretty okay. Yeah, I went, right, well, I made a pledge that day to help people, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, so I think Colin was telling me earlier, so you lost your fences and a couple of cars in a garage.
Yeah, the back of the garage.
Back of the garage, yeah. So
nothing, just
that wasn't nothing. So you did lose a bit, but not like other people have lost their houses. But that's really interesting as a moment. What about for you, Colin? Was it?
I guess my background with emergencies, if things had gone, it's gone. I'm not going to be of use to myself or anyone else if I'm, all emotional about it. But look, I do show emotion, but I also understand you've got to release some pressure at the same time, and I might turn around and have a little private moment, but then I'm ready again. That was probably went through my mind or flashed through it, and then when we realised that we didn't lose Barney's and our house was still good, that, like Susie said, it was time to go, okay, what about the others?
Yep.
I'm just going to, how do I monitor and help if I can? I don't want to be in their face, but I want to be there, and I want to let them know that I'm available. Because I was raised that way, and I was taught that way through my career. And Susie's the same, I think. So we got some, I'm trying to find the right word, relaxation of emotion by helping others.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, isn't it? I think that's commonly what's being experienced, that by giving you do receive in a way. Like it's, yeah.
Well, when we had, I think we opened up Barney's 3 days after the fire, you were in the back of the kitchen, James, helping me.
That's only because I didn't know what to do. Everything's going on. I've got to do something.
I must apologise. I was selfish because I realised you had some skills there, and I asked you if you wanted the job.
It's all fine. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah, no. That was a pleasure. It was good to meet some of the staff out the back who do the work. Yeah, but that's just a common story. Everyone's pitching in and doing things. But has the well ran out at times?
I think
that's pretty hard to sustain.
I hear you, and I think both Susie and I are ready for a little holiday, which I think we indicated earlier in the interview that we've got one coming up on Tuesday. And we also see other hospitality workers that, have been working hard, that need that point. If they reach a point where they've got to have a break. We were lucky enough just before the fires, we had a 5 to 7 day break, was it?
Yeah.
6 day break. So I think if we didn't have, or we weren't able to have that prior to the fires, we would have been in a mess.
Yeah.
But the intention was, we've just had a really busy, great summer hospitality period for our Barney's Bar and Bistro. We've had family members come up. We've had, everyone, as you know, when you're here, want to come up and visit.
Yeah.
We're in a great tourist spot.
Well, that's the thing. Since we've left our place, we see people more often than we did when we were in the town.
Exactly. So you entertain them when they come up.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
But we had this lovely break, and we're going, right, we're ready to go again. Get ready for that little busy March, April, May period. And then the fires occurred. So we were probably 3/4 of a tank full of fuel then.
Yep.
And I think that gave us that resilience opportunity to be there for other people, because we just had a break, and it was a lovely little break.
But to answer your question, definitely dragging the feet at the moment. Running out of steam right now, community-wise as well as within our business and home.
And our staff have recognised that, they're involved with us as well.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of lovely Irish ladies that came and helped us out, which gave us an opportunity to have a little, not so much of a commitment every single day. And we've got, they've since left, and now we've got Orla, who's helping us out too.
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
Great having the extra hands.
Yeah. Well, look, why don't we turn then to, you're a bit more on the empty side at the moment, and I imagine partly from your involvement in lots of things, and it would be really good to turn to, in particular, your involvement, I've got to get this name right, the Pomonal Bushfire Recovery Donations Group, which was partly, there's so many donations that came in on the back of, I think, Colin, was it Susie? I'm not sure, who started the GoFundMe page, was that?
Yeah, look, that was on the day of in Grampians Community Health.
Yeah, the evacuation centre.
So that was the relief centre for this area in Stawell, and I was getting a lot of phone calls and messages. How can I help? How can I help? And I go, I can see this is going to come on. I've heard of a GoFundMe thing, so I spoke to Gareth, who worked there, and kindly enough, he showed me how to set up a GoFundMe, and we thought, oh, well, let's do it, and that's a refer. We can then refer people who want to help to say, let's do this.
Yeah.
So it was a spur of the moment thing, and quickly it started the zing. It's got quite a few $1,000s in the first day, and then zinged up to where it is now. I think it's got up to $160,000 over the months that we all promoted it. It was supported by the community, and a lot of businesses and other people donated as well. And we've had an event called Take a Breath, which was supported by the local bands and promoted right throughout local media and so forth, and that went really well. So we're able to help out there as well to have bands and coffee wagons and men's shed and CFA and that was a terrific event.
Yeah. So you've been organising this public events at the GoFundMe page, and there's other channels that have been.
Yeah. So that money from GoFundMe is just I don't know. You couldn't put a percentage on it, but it's only part of what's been donated.
Yep.
So initially, there were donations through 2 other avenues, and that money and vouchers and support from local communities and business was distributed through the progress and resilience to those that needed it straight away. So hopefully they've been receiving appropriate support, and if there's anyone out there thinks that they need something, let us know, and we can put it into the progress and resilience.
Yeah, and there's just been...
But there is a process being undertaken as we speak.
Yeah, I think I got an email today. So that's really important probably to flag in the podcast and maybe to talk about. We can't talk about what decisions, because no decisions have been made about it. So this is part of the process. So could you tell us a bit about what you're hoping in that process and why it might be important for people to get involved?
It's very important for everyone in the community to fill in the questionnaire. That questionnaire will tell us what people think the money should be spent on. We're not making any of those decisions in the sense of we want the community to evaluate what is important at this stage. The donation group, I have 100% confidence in the group being able to do what's best for the community or what the community wants. No one seems to have a hidden agenda. It's a group that I was actually worried about before it was formed. And now that I've sat in the meetings, I realise there's no one pushing their own thing, which is wonderful.
So people are just orientated to the best outcome for the most people, sort of thing.
Community.
For the community.
And look, it's important to understand that there's some conversation, or has been over the time since the fires occurred and the donations are coming in, that people go, some people have said, well, why aren't you helping this person out? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? Why don't you do that? It's very important to remember that, and through this process that we've learnt very carefully, that the donated money does not take away the responsibilities of the insurance company, does not take away the responsibilities of the local shire who have been supportive, does not take away the state government's support and the federal support. So there's money there that's been put forward to help those in need for certain circumstances. That doesn't mean to say that any donated money is not going to be used, because it has been and it will be, and it's going to be protected with our group, which is called a SELF, S-E-L-F. Looking after yourself is S for scrutiny. It's got to undergo scrutiny. E for ethical. It's got to be ethical with what we do with our money, which is the community's, not ours, mine, Susie's, our money. L, it's got to be lawful. And F, it's got to be fair. So that's our adopted guide for everything we're using. And every time someone raises something in that meeting, which I won't say what they're saying, will it undergo the self-test?
Okay, yeah. So
scrutiny, ethical, lawful and fair.
Yeah. And would it be right to say that when people give you feedback through this new mail out and survey, that E and the F in particular, the ethical frameworks, that you've formed, but might need a bit of tinkering with because you hear the more voices, and the fairness measure, that they're two areas in particular that people can say, well, you need to make sure that the money's spent in this way because this is fair or this is ethical. These are some of the ethical things you need to consider that, which you probably might be already aware of, I assume. But like, is that part of what you're hoping for? Or you wanting specific needs from people to be?
I think people will speak from their hearts.
Yep.
People in the community will make those decisions and put down those things that's in their hearts that they think the way they think it should be spent.
Yep.
And as I said before, I'm confident that the community using the donations group using Self will be able to grab all of that information and spend time analysing it.
Yep.
Not just quickly go, whip, oh, yeah, that's what we thought. There's none of that. We will analyse it and make sure that we're following the Self. But people are likely to go by what's in their hearts at the moment.
Yeah, of course.
An example of sometimes someone says, "Oh, why don't you give it all to that person who's lost all their house?" I mean, you've got 160,000 from the GoFundMe, which has been donated for a specific purpose, and then Progress have got a donation, and the health people have got some donations. It's only going to help one family, and then the rest that might need it don't get any. So it's all about being fair.
Yeah, so that would fail the F test, basically. Yeah.
So that's how we're operating those sort of type things.
Yeah, and good luck to you. I think what I would like to do is to acknowledge how difficult it would be to sit on that committee.
Sure.
And because the possibility of people feeling a little bit, I don't know, upset about the process or a bit in the dark, I mean, it's bound to happen in some way. So you're kind of putting yourself out there for criticism. And so I want to acknowledge that there would be a bit of bravery in joining that committee and sticking to. And but I'm hopeful that most people are going to see that they've got your back, and that you need to think about, well, would you be willing to do it? That's probably a good thing for people to think about.
I think we have a good understanding that just from our backgrounds that there's been trauma.
Yeah.
With trauma comes a lot of anger, lots of different emotions at different times, and sometimes people will want to lash out or will need to lash out.
Or mistrust. There might be a feeling of mistrust.
All of that feeling of being alone and no one cares and it's going to be not spent right. All those assumptions, I can understand things like that welling up in people's minds. But I just want to make people rest assured that we're going to do the best thing by the community with what the community think.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, money doesn't heal everything.
No.
People's actions, voluntary. We've had some beautiful acts of kindness, which has certainly given some step towards, recovery, and that's what it's about. It's recovery is going to be forever for some people, for the rest of their life, and we want them to know that we're here regardless of money. Money doesn't. It's not all about the pot of gold.
Yeah.
It's there when it's needed, and if there's a voice of "Can you help me?" we will be there, irregardless of whether there's money or not.
Yeah.
Like I've got a friend of mine who's doing his handyman work, coming in from Warwicknabeal to help people. He's been biting at the bit to get over here and help. He's done 3 or 4 weeks, and he's helped out, and I won't say who, a couple of residents here that they thought it was all over. And he's there, and they said, "Oh, we want to give you money." He goes, "No, it's all right."
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that would be a perception, isn't it? Like we're at the point in the recovery where there's, we're past the fire now, and but it's not. Well, some people have been able to make much progress at all in terms of cleaning up, and
sure,
it's a nightmare.
The voluntary groups that have helped out, and our local people, our local carpenters, plumbers, electricians, the flood of offer that, like, we were in awe of. A beautiful offer of kindness from all businesses, as far wide as, the other parts of the state.
Yeah.
Young kids organising events, which comes in with $3,000 in a pot in a biscuit barrel.
Yeah,
And
that's
says,
crazy.
"This is for you."
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
whoa. And those things don't get forgotten.
No.
Go on.
And that's where a lot of the GoFundMe has been. People just come in with the cash and we just transfer the money straight into the GoFundMe if it came via us. Same with the money from Nadia's shop.
Yep.
It's been gathering too. It's been spent on people that need it. It's just great that the wider community have really got behind us.
And it doesn't matter the amount that's been donated. Like, hi, I'm 13 years of age and I want to give what's in my money box, and it's $25.
Yeah.
Whoa. And then someone says 5,000. There's no difference there.
Yeah.
There is no difference. It's an act of kindness.
Yeah, but the impulse is important. Like you talked about, you were raised with certain values and you became a cop, serve and protect. But those kids that do that $25, who knows where that's going to lead in the future? That impulse, you've got to nurture that. That's everything. Yeah.
Oh, look, I just want to congratulate the community on, I've been involved in others, and we've studied a few other places that have gone through disasters, and we were looking to improve ourselves from looking at some other areas that have gone through the similar things. And it's really heartening to see that now we're being looked at as a model. And I hope we can continue doing that. I think that's one of the best things I've seen about our community. It's what I think we spoke at the start of this interview, why we live in this area. And it's all right thinking, I believe that this is a great community. I know. Some people have said, we're leaving, and they've gone away, and no, we're coming back.
Yeah. And people, who have been really affected too, they just need to be embraced, don't they? Because that can be so hard to actually choose to come back as well, and to go through that trauma. Yeah.
And from my perspective on the Resilience Committee, they've got so many great plans for the next years. They're not going to stop there. There'll be other offers of help. I know that they're working on helping people rebuild their gardens, things like that.
Yeah, well, I saw down at the hall they were offering free assessments for fire safety in terms of garden. Well, how brilliant is that? So, of course, there's going to be anxiety. Everything burns down, and then you go, well, I want to re-establish the garden. How can I do it to minimise risks? And then you've got this resource available to you to come out, assess, develop a plan. That's fantastic. Yeah.
And how great has the communication been from the communication team on the Resilience?
So clear.
They've been just wonderful.
Yeah.
Being able to put everything out to everybody via email or Facebook or whatever.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
We're going to keep working. There's a lot of work there. Great team. A whole lot of individuals that all have pitched in different skills, and together they've done wonderful things.
Yeah, and again, like a lot of those skills are highlighted in some of the offerings at the hall currently. Are you going to drumming tonight?
I am. I've discovered boom, 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 ha, and that's what I'm good at. And Anthony does a great job of that, and her team there. And the Pomonal Hall has been utilised day in, day out, and it's a great resource down there. And people have come forward with some brilliant ideas, including yourself, with just the activities. It's just, isn't it? It's really
so good. Yeah.
The place is buzzing.
It's buzzing.
Erupted all this beautiful volcanic lava, and we're just hot.
Lots of young people getting involved too, which is fantastic to see. So
it's a way of communicating and networking as
yeah,
well.
you got this intergenerational thing happening. Like I was fascinated just watching the drumming group, and you doing those crazy circles, and young and old, and it's great.
And the hub down there has just been a great place. It's just a wonderful place to go to and talk to the volunteers down there, and if you need something, they'll help you out.
And I've got a feeling those volunteers are going to want to keep going for a long, long time. So they're loving it too, which is great.
Yeah, fantastic. So have you got any last things that you wanted to say, like that you might have been hoping to say on the podcast?
I just, once again, just want to thank everyone that's been involved and will continue to be involved and putting their hand out to help us out. I don't want to start mentioning, but I will. as we have heard that say, just the local shire, the governments, whether you're Liberal, Labor or National Party, doesn't matter. If they're helping, they need recognition, and those people know who they are in those organisations. Emma Keeley, I just want to mention right from the start, she was sensational and has continued to be a resource for this area in healing. Thank you. And the bands that helped us out on the Take a Breath Day, and all those volunteers and helpers and tradies and Shire, Blaze, the emergency response.
I was talking about the tradies that came, the Maasai group.
Yeah,
I think they're called.
Yep.
Oh yeah, I spent a day with them down at Wild Misty Mountain. They were great.
Yeah,
fantastic.
Great.
Yeah, they were great bunch of
So
people.
you know, if people need help, please let the Resilience and Progress know. Please put it down on the form that's been distributed, where you think we need to improve or recognise what needs to be listed as one of the priorities, and return your email or your form or a text even, or at Nadia's shop, just leave a note or your form.
Yeah, I'm just worried that people might be. I know people are hurting, but I don't want them to sit there and hurt alone. Yeah. So just speak up if you need anything.
Yeah, brilliant.
Because if we don't know, we can't help.
Yeah. And next year, is it going to be a Bogan Bash or is it going to be a new theme?
Well, it might be a new theme, I think.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think we'll try and see how things go. But we might do 2 a year, or not Bogan Balls. That one's been ticked. But we'll come up with some crazy other idea, and James, you can help me with the broadcast.
There you go.
No, it's all good.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us on.
Oh, yeah, no, pleasure.
Yeah.
It's been definitely on the to-do list is to get you on, so it's great to have you on.
Sir, it's a credit to you the way you interview. We're very relaxed and
thank you.
how you
Yeah.
do it.
Yes,
So, all
and
the
for
best to
anyone
you.
else thinking of doing a podcast.
Yeah, it's not scary at all.
Don't
It's just a
hold back.
conversation. Yeah.
Don't hold back.
Yeah.
No, thank you,
Great.
sir.
No
Thanks,
worries.
James.
Okay, thanks a lot. So we'll finish this podcast